A cold rain slammed against the glass doors of the corporate tower as Tyler Jakes stood frozen in the lobby. His hands trembled as he watched the CEO descend the marble stairs in slow motion. Something on her finger made his chest tighten in a way he could not explain. It was a small silver ring worn thin by time and memory. A ring he had buried in his past. A ring he once gave to a little girl who promised him forever. His breath caught as the world around him blurred into silence. Because he knew that ring. And if it truly belonged to her, then everything he believed about his past was about to collapse in front of him. Before we go deeper into this case, take a second and hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. Tyler did not move as the CEO's eyes slowly lifted toward him. And what she said next made his blood run cold. Because she whispered a name only one person in the world was supposed to remember. And that name was his. Tyler Jakes was a single father trying to survive one day at a time. Life had never been gentle with him after his mother Mrs. Jakes passed away. She had raised him with one lesson. Never break a promise no matter how small it looks. Now Tyler worked long shifts cleaning offices inside high-rise buildings. His hands were always tired and his shoes were always worn out. But every morning he still smiled for his daughter Tilly Jakes. Tilly was 7 years old. Bright eyes full of questions and dreams bigger than their small apartment. She believed her father could fix anything in the world. Even when the world kept breaking him. Tyler would pack her lunch with shaky hands before sunrise. Sometimes there was barely enough food in the fridge. But he always made sure she had something warm to eat. At night he would sit beside her bed and listen to her talk about school. Her laughter was the only sound that made his pain quieter. But once she slept, the silence in the house felt heavy again. Tyler often stared at an old empty drawer in his room. Inside it used to be something he never forgot. A promise ring from his childhood. A small silver ring he gave to a girl who once believed in him. He never saw her again after life pulled them apart. But he always remembered her face. And the promise they made under a broken playground slide. Now years had passed. And Tyler thought that part of his life was gone forever. Until the day everything began to change. Because sometimes the past does not stay buried. Sometimes it walks right back into your life wearing a different name. And Tyler was about to discover that in the most shocking way. It started on a Monday morning inside Walker Industries. Tyler had been assigned extra cleaning duties on the executive floor. It was the kind of place where people barely looked at him. Employees walked past like he was invisible. Their shoes clicked on marble like judgment itself. Brandon Stokes, the corporate manager, always made sure Tyler felt small. He would often mock him in front of others, reminding him that people like Tyler did not belong in places like this. That morning Brandon stopped him near the elevator. He looked Tyler up and down with a cold smile. "You missed a spot last night," he said sharply. Tyler lowered his head and apologized quietly. But inside it hurt more than he showed. Because every insult reminded him of the life he was fighting to protect. Then the elevator doors opened. And everything stopped. Sophie Walker, the CEO, stepped out. She was calm, powerful, and unreachable. Everyone around her straightened instantly. But Tyler did not move. Because his eyes locked onto her hand. On her finger was a silver ring. Old, scratched, and unmistakable. His breath stopped in his throat. That ring belonged to his childhood promise. The same ring he gave to a girl named Sophie years ago. His mind refused to accept it. But his heart already knew. Brandon noticed Tyler staring and laughed under his breath. "Don't even think about looking at her," he whispered. But Tyler was no longer listening. Sophie Walker walked closer and for a brief moment, their eyes met. Something flickered in hers. Something unspoken and buried. Then she stopped. Right in front of him. And asked softly, "Where did you get that look from?" Tyler could not answer. Because the truth forming in his mind felt impossible. And then she added one more sentence. That turned his world upside down. After that moment Tyler could not think straight. He kept replaying the ring in his mind. Every detail felt like a wound reopening. That night he returned home late. Tilly was already asleep on the couch waiting for him, her small hand still holding a crayon drawing of him. Tyler sat beside her quietly. But his thoughts were elsewhere. The CO. The ring. The name Sophie. It could not be the same girl. It made no sense. But the next day at work things got worse. Brandon had filed a complaint against Tyler, claiming he was staring at the CO inappropriately. Tyler was called into the office. He stood there while people judged him without asking questions. Sophie Walker herself entered the room. The atmosphere changed instantly. She looked at Tyler with an unreadable expression. Then she dismissed everyone except him. The room became silent. Tyler's heart raced. Sophie slowly removed the ring from her finger. She placed it on the table between them, and asked, "Do you recognize this?" Tyler nodded slowly. His voice barely came out. "Yes." Her eyes softened for a second. But then pain filled them. "I found it in my mother's belongings after she died," she said. Tyler froze. Mother. That word unlocked something deep inside him. Sophie continued. "She told me a boy once gave it to me when we were children. She said he promised to find me again." Tyler felt his knees weaken, because suddenly memories flooded back. The playground. The broken swing. The small girl crying as she gave him a bracelet in return. But then Brandon burst into the room. He interrupted everything, claiming Tyler was manipulating the CO for attention. Security was called. Tyler was grabbed by the arms. Sophie raised her hand and stopped them. The room froze again. She looked at Tyler one more time, and said quietly, "If what you are saying is true, then you are not who I thought you were." Tyler's voice shook. "I never stopped remembering you." Silence fell. But before Sophie could respond, Brandon whispered something into her ear, and her expression changed completely. She stepped back and said, "Take him away." Tyler looked at her in shock, because in her eyes, he was now a stranger again. And as he was dragged out, one question burned in his mind. Why did she not remember him? That night Sophie could not sleep. The ring sat on her desk glowing under soft light. She kept staring at it, trying to understand the emotions she could not explain. Something about Tyler's voice had felt real. Too real to ignore. So she did something unexpected. She went through her late mother's storage box again, and found an old photograph. It showed a little girl and a boy holding hands under a broken slide. On the back was a note. "Promise is not time-bound." Her hands shook, because she finally remembered. Tyler Jakes. The boy who saved her when she was alone as a child. The boy who gave her that ring. Tears filled her eyes. And for the first time in years, she felt something she thought she had lost. Hope. The next morning she arrived at Tyler's apartment. Tilly opened the door first. Sophie knelt down gently. "I think I knew your father a long time ago," she said softly. Tilly smiled without understanding. And behind her, Tyler stood frozen. Because Sophie Walker had come back. Not as a CO, but as the girl who once promised him forever. Sophie cleared Tyler's name immediately. Brandon was removed after investigations proved his manipulation. Tyler did not understand everything yet, but he slowly began to trust her again. Sophie visited often, sometimes bringing food for Tilly, sometimes just sitting quietly with Tyler. The walls between their past and present began to break. One evening they returned to the old playground, now abandoned and silent. Sophie held the ring tightly. "I thought I lost everything when I became who I am today," she said. Tyler replied softly. "You didn't lose it. You just forgot where to look." For the first time in years, they both smiled without pain. Tilly ran ahead laughing, her voice echoing through the empty space. And Tyler realized something simple. Life had broken him, but it had also brought him back to what truly mattered. Tyler Jakes never expected his past to return wearing the face of a powerful CEO. But life has a strange way of reconnecting broken promises. What once felt lost forever had only been waiting for the right moment to be found. Sophie Walker was no longer just a CEO. And Tyler was no longer just a struggling single father. They were two people tied by a promise made in childhood. A promise that survived time, pain, and silence. And sometimes, that is how healing begins. Through unexpected memories. And people who refuse to forget you. Before we close this story, before we go deeper into stories like this one, take a moment and tell me what part hit you the hardest. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are a single parent watching this, share your experience below. Your story matters more than you know. Now here is a question for you. The CEO spent years believing she had moved on from her past. Until the truth stood right in front of her. So what do you think? Was Sophie right to push Tyler away when she did not remember him? Or should she have trusted him from the start? Comment below. Team trust or team protect yourself? Let's see where you stand. And if this story touched your heart, do not forget to like, subscribe, and join us here on The Redeemed Single Dad, where every story reminds us that even broken pasts can find their way back home.